Joe Biden finally visits the victims of Maui, and it was a complete and utter disaster. First off, his welcoming, he was greeted by a bunch of middle fingers with an FU slogan being chanted. And then the guy goes on stage, talks about, instead of making the fires about the victims, the Maui wildfires, about the victims, he talks about a story of his house being burned down when it wasn't burned down. He straight up lies, makes up a story. His kitchen was on fire back in the day. It took 20 minutes to put out. It was a small kitchen fire. He did not lose everything in a fire as he pretends. This guy is insane. Then he has the audacity to fall asleep during a memorial of the victims. This guy is a complete embarrassment and utter disaster. That and more coming up on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. I'm going to talk to you about Biden's disastrous visit to Maui. I'm going to talk to you about the GOP debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin tomorrow night. I believe that Trump should debate. Obviously, at least at this point, he has claimed that he is not going to do so. I suspect he's still going to be making that appearance on Tucker Carlson on Twitter. Also, Trump is going to be arrested on Thursday. It looks like he's going to turn himself in. So we'll talk about that. We've got a lot to deal with. This is going to be a fun podcast. So please get ready for it. Also, subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify. Wherever you go, please subscribe. YouTube and Rumble, we would certainly appreciate that. Rate and review. Help us to move up the charts. Help us to be seen. We would appreciate that. All things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter, Facebook, True Social, and Getter. Perhaps some more coming your way in the future, but everywhere that I am now at The Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me. Today's show is brought to you by MyPillow.com, or in part by MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell of MyPillow is offering a fabulous deal exclusive to my listeners right now. The queen size My Pillow is available to you for only $19.98. That is $19.98 down, marked down all the way from $69.98. All you have to do is click on the radio podcast square at the top of the page and enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, and you will get that deal. Or you can call them 800-858-0263, 800-858-0263. So only $19.98 for a queen size. If you want to up that to a king size, $29.98. Again, down from $69.98. Plus, they've got deep discounts all across the website. So all you have to do, again, is enter my name, Carl, as the promo code. They've got deep discounts on dog beds, mattresses, mattress toppers, my slippers. Whatever you've been wanting to purchase on mypillow.com, now is the perfect time to do so. Buy early for Christmas, birthday presents, or just for your sheer enjoyment. Get a better night's rest as well with the My Pillow. So please check them out. MyPillow.com, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. You cannot beat that with a bat. All right, so I want to dive right in. I want to play this video. This is the welcome video, or the welcome greeting that Joe Biden got as he finally visited Maui, only after there was public pressure mounting, and even the mainstream media started thinking, oh my God, this idiot better go to Hawaii. He's making us look bad. We can only carry so much water for this guy. So I think as pressure started mounting, Joe Biden finally decided to visit Maui, and it's obvious why. Again, it was just pressure mounting. It's obvious to me that the left does not care about the citizenry. They don't care about their people. I believe the same is true for the governor of Hawaii. I believe his name is Josh Green, if I am not mistaken. But I don't believe these people care for their citizens. Listen, this was all in the name. They're blaming climate change. They're not taking accountability for their actions. I told you yesterday in the podcast that Hawaii Electric went from spending $4 million to maintain their properties, maintain their equipment, maintain the lands around their equipment in 2018, all the way down to $245,000 spent from 2019 to 2022 combined. And why? Because they were succumbing to the pressure that was placed on them by the Democrat legislators or regulators in the state of Hawaii. So honestly, what these citizens have to do more than what we're about to show you is they need to fight back against this radical green agenda. It is their leaders, and I say this not to be harsh, but to be real. We should completely sympathize to the best of our ability with the Maui people. But after this is done, they need to kick a lot of people out of office, and they need to make sure that radical green agenda that is in part to blame for the Maui wildfires ceases. It is absolutely insane. The leadership in Hawaii are literally getting people killed. Without any further ado, Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the video. You'll see the welcoming committee greeting I hate calling him president. You'll see the welcoming committee greeting Joe Biden, since it took him 5 days just to respond or to make mention of the Maui wildfires, because of course he was on vacation. So let's roll the video. Here's the welcoming committee as the motorcade, Joe Biden's motorcade, drives into town.
Wow, he's finally here. Wow, yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks for nothing. Fuck you. Hey, right here, hey, fuck you, Joe Biden, fuck you.
Now, that was the Maui welcoming committee, and as you heard, they were saying we love you. Honestly, listen, I struggle sometimes just being honest to play some of these clips because the language is intense. But I want you to keep in mind, this is real emotion. These are people that have possibly lost friends and family members, have lost housing, and you see a president of the United States that doesn't care enough about you to even mention you for 5 days, despite the fact that these were the worst wildfires in almost a century, even bigger than the wildfires that occurred in California. I forget what they were called in 2019, that were the biggest at the time. They paled even in comparison to the Maui wildfires, and the president of the United States does not respond. So I believe personally that he got the greeting that he deserved, full of emotion. Full of emotion that was behind that, and I completely understand. Here's another video for you. This guy is a disaster. Frankly, if I'm Donald Trump, if I'm Ron DeSantis, I am going to Hawaii. I'm going to Maui. I'm making a case for Hawaiians to stop systematically voting for the Democrat Party. And to start voting against the green agenda. I know emotions are raw. I know a lot of, Carl, you're so insensitive. It's politics. Listen, politics is a part of life. Get over it. You're going to save lives. This is the time to make a visit. If I'm them, I'm traveling out there to make a visit, not just for politics, but listen, our policies work for everybody. And this is why this radical green agenda is so dangerous. You see what can happen. You're worried about losing lives allegedly 100 years from now when these guys can't predict the weather 24 hours from now, yet you've lost lives as a result of this radical green agenda. You still got 850 people missing. Last I heard, approximately 120 that have been declared dead. No telling if you'll even be able to find the other 850 people. That's yet to be seen. And then Joe Biden steps it in again. This guy is such a disaster. Republicans need to be hitting this guy hard. Now, here's another. This guy's just a liar. This guy is a sociopath. He is a liar. He's trying to relate to people that have possibly lost everything, and he fabricates a story. This guy had a house fire where his kitchen, it took 20 minutes, I believe, to put out a house fire in his kitchen. He says he lost the whole thing. He can relate to them. What an idiot. Somebody just tell them, just show compassion, be there. You've already received the warm greeting that you got coming into town. Just be there for the people, listen to their needs, listen to their grievances, and just be quiet. Say I'm sorry. Say I'm sorry for taking so long to get there. But instead, here's what he does. Let's go ahead and roll the clip. Por favor, Gabe.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake that's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware.
Okay, all right, guys. I am hyped after seeing that. He almost lost his 67 Corvette. He almost lost his home. He almost lost his cat. None of these are true, by the way. Again, it was a small kitchen fire. Now you compare that to people that did lose their homes, that did lose family and friends, that did lose businesses, that perhaps lost pets, that have perhaps lost their livelihoods. This guy can't just go and be sympathetic. And he says, all kidding aside, seriously, I don't know. You don't even talk about the fire for literally 5 days. It takes you 13 days to finally get there. And you're going to sit here and joke about and try to relate to me about what you almost lost when I've just lost everything. I can understand why the people that greeted him said, shut the up. My God, this guy is a disaster. And he's just a mean person. Now, here's the deal. A lot of people were talking about how he was joking too about, I forget what the joke was, but I think this was conservatives gone mad, to be frankly. You know, we get a little hyped too, and so we want to see everything that's wrong with people, but he was walking, he talked about how the ground was hot. Some conservatives chumped that up as a joke. I don't believe that it was a joke. I think he was just making a general statement because it was hot that day, and the ground was hot as he was walking. He made mention of it. So I didn't see the joke like other conservatives did. But here we go again. Okay, if you're at a memorial, right, for the Maui victims, the Maui wildfire victims, here's one thing that you don't want to see. This has become what's classical Joe Biden. Here it is. Let's watch Joe Biden at a memorial, basically, for the Maui victims. See what he does here.
We are a community that relies on family, on ohana, whether by blood or by friendship. But like many others.
Okay, all right. So not necessarily a memorial. I got that wrong. He's meeting with the families of the victims. He's meeting with the families of the victims, and he takes a nappy nap. He takes a nappy nap. Warm milk, cookies, takes a nappy nap. Unbelievable. Man, give this guy an energy drink, whatever you guys give him to be able to stay awake during press conferences. Make sure he has that before he goes to visit the victims or the family members of victims. Unbelievable. The guy falls asleep. What a disaster. All right, moving on. This guy has got to be beat. He's got to be beat in 2024. He's got to be beat. All right, so now here's another story. This is from the AP. If I can pull this up real quickly. So Trump is apparently going to turn himself in on Thursday after his attorneys and Fani Willis, the attorney or district attorney or state attorney for Fulton County, have come to some type of bond agreement, and now all of a sudden My laptop is freezing, so I may not be able to give you the story with all the detail and specificity. I just think that's important sometimes. I hate reading, but sometimes I just want to make sure that you have accurate information. So I'm going to wait for that to spruce up, hopefully, because my laptop is a freezing for some reason. All right, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So now it's going to be Trump's fourth arrest. This, according to the AP. My laptop is going haywire here. Forgive me. Forgive me. This is what happens when you try to do a podcast. All right. So Trump says that he'll surrender Thursday on Georgia charges tied to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. No word if Hillary Clinton will be side by side, turning herself in after trying to or arguing against 2016. Wanting to overturn that election, or Al Gore or Stacey Abrams. No word whether or not this will be happening to them. But I think we all know that it will not be, not because we live in a two-tier justice system, as some of my colleagues on the right will say, but because we have no justice system. It is Democrats prosecute or persecute whoever the heck they want. It is more of a hierarchy, what I've heard. You've got fascist leaders that control the Democrat Party right now, and they are authoritarians, and they'll do whatever the heck they please with you. So this from the AP, Trump says he will surrender to authorities in Georgia on Thursday to face charges in a case that is accusing him of illegally scheming to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state. I don't know how you get that when you say go and peacefully protest, so on, etc. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're speaking of Georgia specifically, but when you read the transcript, it was clear that former President Trump thought that there were at least 11,800 or whatever the number was votes that were able to be found. He wasn't telling Brad Raffensperger to go make up numbers or anything like that. He just said there was plenty of evidence that the election had been rigged, that there were ballots out there that Raffensperger could go collect that were already filled out by legitimate voters, and Raffensperger needed to go find them. In essence, that's what it was. So they are charging him for that. He said on his Twitter account, "Can you believe it? I'll be going to Atlanta, Georgia on Thursday to be arrested." He wrote this on his social media account on Truth Social. His bond has been set at $200,000, again, according to the AP. And it will be Trump's fourth arrest since April, when he became the first former president in U.S. history to face indictment. Since then, Trump, who remains the leading candidate for the GOP presidential nomination, has had what has seemed like an endless procession of bookings and arraignments in jurisdictions across the country. His appearances in New York, Florida, Washington, D.C., again, have drawn enormous media attention, with news helicopters tracking his every move. It's also when Trump started to see a bump in the polls. I will remind you that I think Governor Ron DeSantis, I think Trump was polling at 40-something. Governor DeSantis was polling at about 30 points before or prior to the first indictment, his New York City indictment with Alvin Bragg. The moment that happened, Trump jumped in the polls 8 points. DeSantis declined 8 points. So you saw people that were like, they didn't know what else to do. So they began to rally around Trump. And that's where his poll numbers just started taking off, because everybody was like, all right, screw this. They're going after our guy. We're going to rally around him. So Trump, again, electing to turn himself in just 1 day after the GOP debate. I think this is in part strategic. There's going to be a lot of news fodder the next day, obviously, concerning the GOP debate. I think it's a mistake personally that Trump does not go to the debate. And I will share those reasons with you after I finish this up. But I think it's frankly, I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I think it's a huge mistake on Trump's part because first off, I don't believe the polls at all. I think there's only 5, maybe 10%, if we're lucky, of people paying attention. I don't think so many people have checked out, even people that I know that are politically astute that have just checked out. They're so sick and tired of the Republican Party. They're so sick and tired of seeing what's being done to Trump, and they don't feel like anything is going to be done about it. And they're like, what's the point? I know 3 big time Trumpsters that feel that way right now. All right. So I just simply don't believe the polls. I do believe that Trump has a commanding lead, and I believe easily so because I think people are rallying around him. But I think it's a mistake to allow a second person to rise, a third person to rise, because eventually people are going to drop out of the race. And then if he gets that contention, perhaps Trump wins Iowa, perhaps he wins New Hampshire or South Carolina. You still have Super Tuesday and the like. But if someone is able to get that one-on-one with him, or even three, it's possible that people right now, people are really emotional about what's happening, and it's unprecedented, and then as well they should be. But it is possible that they start to say, wait a minute. What is the left doing with Trump? All right, why is it that they're going after him so hard? Is it just about the MAGA movement that they're afraid of? I think Joe Biden is going after Trump so hard because he believes that he can beat Trump. He believes that he legitimately beat him in 2020. He believes that he can beat him again, and not based on policy, of course. So what he'll do is he wants to dry up all of Trump's funding. He wants to tie him up in court. This is the only way that Joe Biden could beat him. Now, if Joe Biden isn't the nominee, Democrats have to come up with another strategy. But right now, it looks like Joe Biden will be the nominee as surrogates come out on his behalf. Going back to the Trump story, Trump's announcements comes hours after his attorneys met with prosecutors in Atlanta to discuss the details of his release on bond. The former president is barred from listening. Listen to this. I think this is really dangerous because I think they're trying to set Trump up. Intimidating co-defendants, witnesses, or victims in the case, including on social media. According to the bond agreement signed by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, Trump's defense attorneys, and the judge, it explicitly includes post on social media or repost of posts that are made by others. All right. Post or repost a post made by others. So this guy could virtually go to jail for anything. They can make that's so general. I'm really concerned that they're trying to trap them. Hey guys, before I move forward, I want to talk to you about this movie, The Hill, that is going to be out this Friday. They are a sponsor of the program, so don't miss the important, inspirational, or the most inspirational movie of the summer. Briarcliff Entertainment's The Hill, starring Dennis Quaid, is in theaters this Friday, August 25th. It is the true life story of professional baseball player Ricky Hill. Growing up poor in small town Texas, young Ricky discovers his extraordinary ability for hitting a baseball, but with leg braces and a degenerative spinal disease. The major leagues were just a dream that could never be. All right. So courageously, he risked it all, defying his father's wish to follow in his footsteps and become a pastor. Ricky tries out for a major league scout, pushing hard to overcome his disability. He goes on to become a baseball phenomenon. Great story. Some dreams are unbreakable. The Hill, starring Dennis Quaid, Colin Ford, and Scott Glenn. Again, it's the true inspirational story about family, faith, and a baseball miracle in Ricky Hill. Don't miss this movie. The Hill is rated PG. It is in theaters this Friday, August 25th. Get your tickets now. The movie is The Hill, starring Dennis Quaid, about the true inspirational story of baseball phenom Ricky Hill. Make sure you go out and check it out. All right, so this lady, I think Fani Willis is trying her best to trap Trump because I do believe they want him in jail. All right, so he's repeatedly, according to the AP, used social media to attack people involved in the criminal cases against him as he campaigns to reclaim the White House in 2024. He's been railing against Willis, and rightfully so. We all know this is a setup. Since before he was indicted, he singled out Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, a Republican who rebuffed his efforts to overturn the election by name in a social media post just this Monday. So obviously he and Brian Kemp do not get along whatsoever. The agreement also prohibits Trump from making any, quote, direct or indirect threat of any nature. What the hell does that mean? Close quote. Against not the what the hell does that mean, but I'm sorry, direct or indirect threat of any nature against witnesses or co-defendants, and from communicating in any way about the facts of the case with them except through attorneys. The order sets Trump's bond for the RICO Act charge at $80,000 and adds $10,000 for each of the 12 other counts he is facing. Bond is he is facing. All right. So Willis set a deadline of noon Friday for Trump and his 18 co-defendants to turn themselves in to be booked. The prosecutor has proposed that arraignments for the defendants follow during the week of September 5th. She has said she wants to try the defendants collectively and bring the case to trial in March of next year. I think that's very dangerous as well. I would be fighting like heck to make sure that it isn't tried collectively, just because I think there's so much Trump hatred out there. And you're looking at Fulton County. If they're trying this thing in Fulton County, and again, I don't even know how they have the jurisdiction to do this. I mean, I don't understand it. Attorneys have gone back and forth that I've heard. I'm just being blunt with you. I don't understand how a local DA could bring charges against against a former president from the executive branch. I don't get that. Admittedly, I don't get that. So I don't even know how that's constitutional. I simply do not. Does not make sense to me. All right. I wish I was an attorney that could explain that, but I do know, I do know executive, legislative, and judicial branch. I do know federal, state, local. It doesn't make sense to me that a local DA can bring charges against a former president. If a local DA can do that, what the heck are we doing? What the heck are we doing? All right. Anyway, now let me mention this. Let me give you some reasons Trump should debate, and also the debate is occurring tomorrow. Obviously, I think it is going to be a huge day, a very important day for Governor Ron DeSantis. He's got to show up or shut up, one or the other. So all eyes are going to be on him. He's been making some ramblings in the last couple of days. I feel like whatever he's doing now in the last couple of days may be better. He should have been doing it all along. He just seems to be more comfortable now. The problem is, again, he's running against justice. Again, his polls started to drop. It has nothing to do with DeSantis. Now let me mention this. There's $20 million of ads that have gone up against DeSantis, both from the left and the right, to totally destroy his campaign. That is the political process. So you have two sides telling you, we fear this guy as well. So he's obviously a threat to the left. He's obviously the biggest threat to the Trump campaign, and so that's why they're trying their best right now to just totally destroy him. So tomorrow is going to be a big day for him. I kind of think it could be a make or break moment for Governor Ron DeSantis. So we'll wait and see. As for Trump not debating again, I believe he will be going on Tucker Carlson on Twitter. I think I haven't heard anything about that in the last couple of days, but I know that's what was said earlier. And obviously that would garner him a big audience, but I think it would garner him the same audience that he has. I mean, obviously Tucker Carlson is huge, whereas I think Trump needs to go on the stage for two reasons. For one, we the people, and I don't think we should ever get that twisted. I think that every candidate, even Trump, should make his case in front of we the people, because I never want the paradigm to shift. We are the bosses, and we should act like the bosses and not like the employees when it comes to politicians. And I don't care what you say. I'm sorry, Trump is the former president. So now he's officially a politician and he's running for it. Does he have business experience that has made his success in the White House better? Yes. Obviously. But I don't know. It's just a little weird to me when people just play. I don't play semantics, man. I'm going to just be straight with you. All right. So he is a politician at this point. So one, we the people. I don't want that paradigm to ever shift. Now, if Trump was sitting president, I don't think he needs to debate. And I think that unless somebody challenged him and their polls started skyrocketing and the polls were legit, like Biden, frankly, with RFK Jr., I think the left has done everything they can to destroy RFK Jr.'s campaign. I really think if RFK Jr. was getting fair media attention, that he would be the nominee for the Democrat Party. And frankly, I think he would probably win. I hate to say it, but I think that guy is very talented. Don't agree with him on many things, but he's very talented. He's very articulate and making his points. And I think he could win, but the Democrat Party is going to destroy him. So that's all over, and they have been destroying him. I think that's the only reason his numbers are tanking. They're not giving him any positive press when it comes to when it comes to the mainstream media. But the first reason is we the people is why I believe that Trump should be able to audition for us. We're the boss. I'm never going to lose that paradigm. If you hate me for that, screw you. You don't understand the Constitution. That's just the way that I feel. But also, I think we need to see the post-COVID Trump. I love everything that he did prior to COVID, but I think he needs to answer for. Listen, the Ukraine hoax, the Russia collusion hoax. I want to know specifically how he's going to dismantle the deep state. I'm sorry, for me as a person that doesn't have the name recognition of a Trump, if I go to jail, they could lock me up in a cell and forget all about me, just like we are all guilty of doing with the J6 protesters, except for Julie Kelly. So they could lock us up, throw away the key, and completely forget about us. So I want to make sure that Trump has a plan, not just saying it. I want to know how he's going to come in on day one. What is he going to do specifically to dismantle the deep state? So far, the only people that I've heard mention specifics are Vivek Ramaswamy and Governor Ron DeSantis. And frankly, Vivek has been changing his tunes and his positions on things in the last month. As much as I love some of the things that he says, I'm a little uncomfortable with Vivek, so I will not. I'm backing off on the Vivek train. All right, I'll just put it that way. But also, again, I think we need to hear Trump. All right, this is what happened. We know who you are, because that's the argument. We know who Trump is. Yeah, we know who Trump is. But now I need to know what Trump is going to do now that we don't have energy independence and we're not even close to where we were when he got office, when he assumed office the first time around. You also have other people that are playing this game. When it comes to oil, what are we going to do to rein that in? How are we going to fill back up our strategic petroleum reserve when things are just so prices are out of control? The Keystone Pipeline, how do we get that restarted when the federal government, I don't know if you guys have known this, they sold off the pipelines. That's not something that Trump could say, yeah, let's just bring that back on board. And I know when it comes to oil, we trade with, it's a futures thing when it comes to trading stocks, so on, et cetera. But there's no material there anymore. The Biden administration has totally gotten rid of that. So what do we do now? All right. So I need to know what the post-COVID Trump's plans are. I want to know how he's never going to fall for a Fauci or Deborah Birx or try to be friendly with those that are, in the deep state and shut down an economy. He had a loving heart, but I'm sorry. When he shut down the economy, the left took his lead. I was literally reading articles on it, and it was their time to shut Trump down. And that's exactly what they did. He had a kind heart. He did it for all the right reasons, and everything was new. I get it. So, none of us knew what this disease was. But I never believed, and I said at the time, I never believed he should have shut his economy down, because the left was going to pounce on that. And that is exactly what they did. So I need to know the post-COVID Trump, his ideas to make sure we never experience the last year of his presidency. What is he going to do, not just in a future presidency, but to make sure even after he leaves office, if he does indeed get nominated and elected, to make sure that never happens to the American people. Who's he going to work with, craft legislation, so on, et cetera. That's important. If you guys don't want that, you're on crack. All right. You must be hanging out with Hunter Biden. That's insane. All right. Now, last thing that I want to touch on, actually a couple of things. The New York DOJ plan to let Hunter Biden off the hook completely. And I made mention of this yesterday, but I want you to know, you've seen the disaster that Joe Biden is, but the deep state is real. It is deep. All right. It is deep. That sounds like a Kamala Harris moment, but it is deep and it is real. The DOJ plan to let Hunter Biden off the hook, hat tip Breitbart, without charges until the two whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, came forward. So this guy, David Weiss, this U.S. attorney in Delaware, a friend of Beau Biden, apparently. Joe Biden's elder son that died of, I believe it was brain cancer. A homeboy of his. The media tries to say, well, Trump appointed him. This is a guy that's been around Washington or Delaware state for a long time. All right. He's been part of the different presidents, I believe, including George W. Bush, if I'm not mistaken, and Barack Obama assigned him to different positions. So Trump was just following, this is what people do. All right, this is what presidents do oftentimes because they've got so many positions to fill. A lot of people just stay where they are, and I believe that is the situation with David Weiss, if I recall correctly. But David Weiss completely intended to drop all charges. He wasn't going to prosecute him for anything, Hunter Biden for anything. And it is true what the IRS whistleblowers revealed, and that is David Weiss wasn't even given full authority by the DOJ to go after Hunter Biden. So he was going to let that guy walk. So thank God for those IRS whistleblowers. Between that and the public sentiment, it put enough pressure on the DOJ to say, wait a minute, we've got to do something totally different here. Now, I do believe with the special counsel intention or the special Derek or Merrick Garland elevating David Weiss to special counsel is an attempt to try to hide evidence that leads to the big guy, the boss, the mob boss, Joe Biden, working with Hunter Biden. I don't think that's going to work because the House Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee or whatever with Jim Jordan, James Comer, I think they can still dig out the truth. They can still go after Hunter Biden. They can still reveal bank records, emails, text, and so on, etc. I mentioned these emails that Joe Biden was on the other day, copied on, using fake names, using pseudonyms. I think Robert Ware, JRB Ware, Robert L. Peters, or something like that. So that information is going to continue to seep out and eventually into the ether when people are actually paying attention. But again, hat tip Breitbart, this from the New York Times, actually, the DOJ planned to let Hunter Biden off the hook until whistleblowers emerge. And I mean, they weren't going to charge him with anything. Once they got a little bit of blowback, or it's like, okay, let's go for tax evasion and the gun charge, but it won't be too serious. It'll basically be a slap on the wrist, full immunity, where this guy can own a gun again in the future. He's got his slap on the wrist. He can move on with life. But again, the IRS whistleblowers, hat tip to them, courageous men, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, that stepped up, putting the pressure on, making people more informed, the public crying out, just tired of the injustice that they see in the hierarchy system that they see going on. And as a result of that, now you have a special counsel that is likely probably going to say, listen, we're going to throw all these charges at Hunter Biden. So that means the statute of limitation doesn't run out. This is a glorious thing. All right. It's a glorious thing. They're going to try to cover up for Joe Biden. But still, this is going to allow us to keep dripping the news of Hunter Biden. I think that's a good thing. And hopefully more people will be paying attention after tomorrow. All right. So that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden don't get away with all the corruption that they've gotten away with, selling our country out. All right, last thing that I do want to mention, again, the GOP, we all know they're headed to Milwaukee, Wisconsin tomorrow. Guys, here are some things that we need to be demanding of the GOP, whether it's Trump, whether it is DeSantis, whether it's someone else. There are several issues that I'm looking at the MAGA movement and I'm like, are they going to try to do, obviously the left wants to do to the MAGA movement exactly what they did to the Tea Party movement, and they want to totally dismantle it, mantle it. They want to get us disheartened, so on, etc. And this is why I don't even believe politicians when they say I'm America first. I don't believe any of them. All right. and what I mean by that, I mean, I think they love their country, but I just wonder how many people are glomming on to the America First movement now, just like Republicans did with the Tea Party movement, because they want to ride Trump's coattails as opposed to actually save America. So I think there needs to be policy questions that are tied to that you guys need to be asking. You just because somebody says America first does not mean they are. So what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means for me. And then perhaps I need to go on and see what some of these people say individually, some of the bigger names out there. But obviously the rule of law, that is very important to me. Judgeships are going to be up again. We have to be concerned about the Supreme Court and making sure that we're able to maintain the Supreme Court, keep the Supreme Court in the hands of originalists and constitutionalists that actually believe in the rule of law. So we have to consider that. Federal judges, across the country, we got to be aware of that, as well as the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas could retire. We need to make sure, and Alito as well, we need to make sure that we get a Republican in the White House in 2024. Also, abortion, the life issue, that's important to me. People have to, it may not be the most important thing to you, but I figure if people don't care about life, they don't care about life. It's not just about a baby, right? They don't care about how it impacts the woman long term, emotionally and physically, if she has an abortion. They don't care about the life expectancy, or they don't care about babies and our population growth rate, which is very important to maintain a society. And they don't care about people. If you don't care about a little baby, then you probably don't care about the people of Maui, the citizens of Maui, when their houses burned to the ground, right? So that's very important. Free speech, big tech censorship, and all that stuff. I want to know a plan. How are you going to make sure? What are you going to do specifically to make sure that we don't have to continue to deal with this censorship in the United States of America? There's no way Trump should be um, investigated or locked up or arrested for talking about elections. For God's sakes, we are Americans. We can disagree. We can say elections are rigged. We can say elections are stolen. That's what sets us apart from other nations. Free speech is very important. I want to know how this is going to be rectified. And these are other reasons why Trump, in my opinion, should debate. And I really think honestly, I really don't think a lot of conservatives know what time it is. I think they just parrot stuff like parrots. That's what I'm starting to realize. I'm sitting here thinking we got it all locked down. We got it all figured out as conservatives. And I'm starting to realize, some of us are just as much as parrots as the left are. And I'm just not going that way, man. I'm fighting for the country straight up. And you're welcome for all of you that are mad at me. I want specific policies promised to us now in the post-COVID era. All right. I don't want anything like that to occur again. No lockdowns, federal government mandating that you wear masks, taking away your jobs if you don't. That is insane. All right. So free speech, censorship, and I believe all of that is part of it. Taxes, I want it better explained. Man, taxes, that's our hard-earned money that's being taken away from us. Republicans need to come out and say, listen, no politician should justify Washington, D.C. taking more money away from the middle class. I mean, this should be simple. You work hard, you bust your butt. Your money represents your life, your tears, your labor, your sweat. A politician does not have the right to determine how much of that he or she gets to take away from you. Our military is woke. I want that nonsense to stop. I want us to be the baddest fighting force in the world so that we deter other authoritarians like Xi Jinping. What are we going to do about energy? What are the questions? I mean, we need to restore energy, obviously. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, Keystone XL pipeline has been totally dismantled. How do we get that stuff back online? What are we going to do? There are different challenges today, right? Healthcare, when it comes to Obamacare, it's still a disaster. You don't even hear Republicans talking about it. As healthcare premiums go up, the cost of medicine goes up. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So these are some very specific things that I have. The border is still wide open. Trump said he did it before. He'll do it again. You realize that the left is selling off the beams that Trump had to be built for the wall. All right. So and that's why all of this stuff isn't as easy as it was in 2016. We're fighting a totally different beast. They are literally selling off and allowing to sit a lot of the beams that were going to be put up for fencing to block illegals from coming on. How are you going to deal with Mexican cartels? I love the fact that Ron DeSantis said, we're going to shoot them dead. They're coming into our country with fentanyl to kill our people. Guess what? We're going to pop a cap in their behinds. Absolutely love that. I want more answers like that. That's extremely important. Regulations, I like what Trump did as far as deregulation is concerned. For every new regulation you get, you X out two. But a lot of that was done through executive orders. So as soon as Biden came back in, all he had to do was just erase everything Trump did. We've got to have legislation. Executive orders alone are not going to work anymore. We can do executive orders when Trump or DeSantis gets in. Get in, but I'm sorry, that's not going to be enough, because you see, all they had to do as soon as Biden got in was virtually reverse everything Trump did, just do executive orders. So nothing stuck. And obviously education. Education is a huge issue. I think we need to abolish the Department of Education, return the power to the states when it comes to education. Just simple stuff like that. Not a lot of people talking about that kind of stuff. Actually, I have heard a couple of candidates talk about abolishing the Department of Education. I'll let you do your own research on that. Anyway, guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe wherever you go to get your podcast. Follow us on all things social media as well, The Carl Jackson Show. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.